Thank you guys so much for coming or for even watching this week's Technical Tuesday session for the trading week between April 8th to April 12th, 2019. Yeah, good morning, Brandon. Thank you for coming. Brandon's one of our premium members. But what we're going to do in this particular session is analyze both the Euro USD and the US dollar Japanese yen. And first off, I want to apologize for not having a Technical Tuesday session last week. I know last week was a pretty busy and hectic week for us, so then we couldn't meet that often. Also, we couldn't provide any trade setups or ideas. It was just one of those weeks where, we were pretty busy. So, of course, the job is to make it up to you guys, so then hopefully during this Technical Tuesday session, you guys will gain some benefit from the value that we provide, and thus help you guys figure out what's going to take place on both the Euro USD and the US dollar Japanese yen. But with that said, we can move forward and we could talk about our first major pair, which is the fiber or the Euro USD. And if you look at this daily chart, because that's what we're looking at right now, we're looking at this daily chart. It's been apparent that price has been trapped within this channel, traversing between channel support and channel resistance. We did get a breakout, which was a false break, and then we saw price fall right back into this channel and then retest the 2019 low right here, because right here on March 15th or March 7th we had this 2019 low. But last week, if you just zoom in at these candles from last week, you can clearly see that the market was somewhat in consolidation. Price was moving within the range, and we did not get a break out until yesterday. We saw this strong bullish candle from yesterday, and then that's when we saw this breakout. I know Wayne said he cannot see the screen. Yeah, are you looking at it from the mobile app? Because I believe there's something that you have to do when you check out the session from the mobile app. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else is having an issue. Just let us know, and we'll definitely see if the issue is on our end. But yeah, can someone chime in and see, like, ask if they're having like, are you guys having issues on your end? Like, does anyone else have the same problems that like as far as not seeing the screen? Just let us know. If not, then maybe it's a problem. Okay, so I know you said you're on the PC. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, you should be seeing the screen. Yeah. Okay, yeah, Alex said the screen is on. Okay. Yeah, maybe it could be an issue with your computer or PC. What I would do, I would probably log on and log off and then log back on again. Okay. So okay, so then right now we're looking at the Euro USD, and we see that price has pretty much been, it was trapped within a range, really consolidation, and we're going to see this consolidation more clearly when we drop down to a smaller time frame. But for the most part, price really needed to break. Let me just show you. Price needed to break this, let me change the color, this high, in order to really confirm that the bulls were taking over. So then let me just put this right here. It needed to break this high at 12.55. Let me see if I can get it perfect. Okay, yeah, right around here. Price needed to break and close before 12.55. Above 12.55 in order for us to really know that the bulls are taking control. So then what we have is this nice bullish engulfing candle, and it pretty much engulfed the previous 2 days of price action. So then this was Monday's price action, and this was Friday, and this was Thursday's. But all of last week, price was pretty much in consolidation. So then right when we had this break to the upside, then that's when we knew that, hey, we could potentially see a nice opportunity forming in the market. Now, this move and push higher was primarily due to US dollar weakness. And what I'm going to do is take you to the Dixie so you guys can see that. But let me zoom out. And let me take you to the Dixie, or the US dollar index, so you can see what's been taking place. So then if you go to the Dixie, which stands for the US dollar index. The Dixie is DXY. It stands for the US dollar index. So if you look at this chart, and right now we're looking at the daily chart, you can see that price is apparently testing a strong zone of supply or resistance. You can see right here, of course, price has been testing the zone, but you see on multiple occasions this zone or area was respected as resistance or an area of supply. So then, we see it was tested right here, tested right here, tested right here, somewhat tested right here, tested right here, tested right here, and then it retested it again. So on multiple occasions, we saw that this zone was tested. And that's one thing you have to understand. You have to look at price history, because based on certain zones and levels, those zones and levels can be respected on multiple times. So then, you may find price action or an opportunity to participate in a trading opportunity around those levels. So then that's the reason why you have to be aware of those common levels or zones of support and resistance. In this case, we have this common level, this historical level of resistance, and we see that price hit this area, and then we saw this bearish engulfing candle. So then if you zoom in, we see this bearish engulfing candle on yesterday, and we see that this bearish candle was pretty strong. It was a strong bearish candlestick, and it engulfed this previous candlestick. So then that gave us a trigger or an idea to sell the US dollar. Right when we seen this bearish engulfing, then you need to look for an opportunity to sell. So, of course, that's what we saw. And also, if you look at this chart right now, in some way you can see the beginning or origin of a potential or possible topping setup or consolidation setup taking place, in this area right here. Now, for those that are familiar, and for those that are members of our private community, what do you think we're seeing around this area? What particular classical chart pattern could we be seeing? Even though price is traversing in this ascending channel, you could say, we had this false break to the downside, but price came right back into this channel. What type of pattern could be forming right now? Of course, it's not confirmed yet, but, we can see clues of something taking place. Mainly due to the fact that, if we look at price right now, price is overbought. It's in overbought territory on the stochastics. So it's quite possible for us to see a slide lower to the downside on the US dollar index. So then what I want to do is, I guess since no one is chiming in, what I can do is pretty much tell you guys what I'm seeing right now. Yeah, okay, so Brandon said a consolidation triple top. Yeah, and that is what you could be seeing, a triple top setup forming on the US dollar index, or what you can also call a head and shoulders, because this could be the left shoulder, and then we have the head, which is slightly higher than the left shoulder, but we have this right shoulder, and it's right around the same area as what we can call the left shoulder. But triple top, head and shoulders, whatever you want to call it, it's okay. But we see the neckline is right here at these lows at 95.87. So then, all of these factors, the bearish engulfing candle on the daily, this potential triple top, because we see it tested 3 times, or this head and shoulders, however you want to call it or see it, it could give us further clues that, hey, we could be seeing, price slide to the downside. So then if we're going to see price slide to the downside on the US dollar index, what do you think we need to be doing on the Euro USD? Should we be looking for opportunities to sell the Euro USD, or should we be looking for opportunities to buy the Euro USD? Okay, yeah, Alex chimed in. Okay, Wayne chimed in, buy. Yep, and that's exactly what you should be looking for. You should be looking for opportunities to buy the Euro USD right now. So then, if you go back to the Euro USD, Okay. So then right now we're looking at the Euro USD, and we're back at the daily time frame. And what I'm looking at right now is this breakout. Okay, let me just zoom in, because you know, oftentimes you want to pay attention to price action at the candlestick level, and even price action, you know, amongst a body or series of candlesticks. And when we talk about that type of price action, we're mainly referring to classical setups, classical bottoming or topping or reversal patterns. But you know, what we see right here is all these wicks right here to the upside. Wicks right here, wicks right here, wicks right here, wicks right here, wicks right here. So then in this area where we have these wicks, it would be great if we could see price retrace right into this zone or area where we have these wicks. So then that's what I'm looking forward to, you know, and I'm just going to draw in this zone right now. You know, however, we got to be a little bit careful, and I'm going to show you also why we need to be careful. But let me draw in this zone where these wicks are. Okay, so right here in this area, you could say. So then I know we did get a retest of this high right here that price had to break above earlier in today's session, and then price pushed up higher from there. So then we may not get a full retracement, but I want to show you something else as well. So if we just zoom out, okay, if we zoom out here, we can see, for starters, that price is definitely approaching this descending trendline resistance, or this descending channel resistance. But I want to also show you something else, because it's important to be a little bit careful. Because if you look to the left, you can see structure to the left. You can see that we have support, 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 support right in this zone. So then we're going to encounter a zone of resistance soon. What was once support in this area that functioned as support will function as resistance now. So then there's a possibility that we could see price find some resistance in this area as well. So then that's one thing that we have to be mindful of as well, of this particular zone. Also, you can see that price is testing the 20-day moving average as we speak. But this is just something to be mindful of, because there's a possibility that we could see some sort of reversal signal right around this area as well. But that may give us an opportunity to engage our trade on the Euro USD. If we go down to the 4-hour chart, we can see price action a little bit better. But on the 4-hour chart, okay, let me just zoom this out. On the 4-hour chart, we see a classical chart pattern right here at this low, or at the bottom. For those who may want to chime in, what classical chart pattern do we see? For those that are familiar with classical setups, classical chart patterns, reversal patterns, what reversal pattern are we seeing on this chart? Oftentimes, like, if there's one thing that you guys can study, it's really these classical chart patterns. Really, I recommend them. I endorse them far above advanced harmonic patterns. Me personally, I'm not so much of an advanced harmonics patterns guy, but I'm more of a classical, simple chart pattern type guy. I mainly train market structure and look for areas to buy, so, you know, on support and resistance, or buy, you know, buy at support, sell at resistance. I'm that type of trader. But anyways, going forward, so we see this classical chart pattern. Did anyone chime in? Okay, yeah, Brandon said inverted head and shoulders, king crown bulls. Yeah, I know some people would call it a king crown bulls, but it's more so like an inverted head and shoulders pattern. You mainly see the left shoulder right here, and then we see the head, and then we see the right shoulder. And remember, the right shoulder is always typically around the same area as the left shoulder right here. So then we do have this inverted head and shoulders pattern, which represents a bullish rotation in price. So then right now what we want to do is just wait for the pullback or retracement in price to this market structure area. And if we get that type of pullback, then that would be great. So then this is what we're looking for, guys. Something along these lines. If we can get a nice solid pullback into this area where we saw the wicks on the daily, into this area right here, If we can get a nice correction to this zone and to this area, then the next thing to do is look for an opportunity to buy on bullish confirmation. And you would have to be careful because we are approaching this daily descending trendline resistance, or this channel resistance up here. But yeah, that's one opportunity. Also, if price does retest this daily descending channel, you may see an opportunity to go short as well upon bearish confirmation. So then just be on the lookout for that. But in the meanwhile, right now we're bullish. We have no reason to be bearish yet, just simply off of what we saw on the daily time frame. We had that bearish engulfing candle, that bullish engulfing candle on the Euro USD, and that gave us a clue, an indication that, hey, we may need to look for an opportunity to buy the dip or buy on a pullback in price. So that's what we're looking forward to on the Euro USD. So are there any questions about this particular pair before we move forward? Okay, I don't think there's any questions. So then what we can do next is definitely go to our next currency pair, which is the US dollar Japanese yen. Now, let me ask you guys a question to see if you guys remember. So then, based off of what we saw on the Dixie, is the dollar gaining strength or is the dollar selling off? Like before we move forward. Yeah, I'm talking about the US dollar index. You know, what we saw on the DXY. We talked about it earlier. Like based on what we saw earlier on the US dollar index. Like, was the US dollar selling off or was it gaining strength? Remember, that was one of the charts we saw earlier. Okay. Yeah, okay. So then I know Wayne said, okay, like he's talking about the US dollar Japanese yen. We're going to talk about that really, really soon. And okay, we had this price alert. So that came in. I'll look at that later. Okay. So then, like, I was mainly talking about the US dollar index. What we saw on the US dollar index, let me go to the Dixie first, because I want to provide context for the US dollar Japanese yen before I go there. But on the US dollar index, we saw that price was sliding lower. So then, you know, we see dollar weakness. The US dollar was selling off. So then, based off of what we see on the US dollar currency index, what do you think we should see for the US dollar Japanese yen? I know we have a few people chimed in. I know Wayne said sell the US dollar Japanese yen. Alex says selling. And yeah, so okay, sell the US dollar. Yep, exactly. So then, based on what we see here, we should be looking for maybe an ideal to sell the US dollar Japanese yen, right? Yeah, possibly. So then what we're going to do is, first I'm going to go back to the daily. Go to the daily. And then from here, we're going to go to see the US dollar Japanese yen and start analyzing the US dollar Japanese yen. Okay, so then right now we're looking at the US dollar Japanese yen and we're looking at the daily time frame. And let me just zoom this out so you guys can see a little bit better what's been taking place. But as you guys know, price rallied higher, encountered this zone of resistance. Price fell lower, encountered the 110 psychological zone or area, and then we've been on a tear and rally ever since then. Price has been strongly moving to the upside with very limited pullbacks until price encountered this zone of supply. What we see right here is really a zone of supply. It was support here, resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. You know, therefore, let me readjust this right quick. I'm just going to readjust this zone. You know, and that's one thing, guys, you have to do. You have to learn the importance of readjusting your levels. But you guys get the point. You know, we're encountering this zone of strong supply or resistance right now on the US dollar Japanese yen. And at this zone of supply, we was expecting for price to potentially top out. If you look at stochastics, we see that stochastics is also overbought, and it looks like momentum wants to cycle downward. We see that could be one clue of what could potentially be happening. And also, if we zoom in at our candles right here, we zoom in at our candles, we see that yesterday's candle was also an engulfing candle. We had a lower low and a lower close of this candle from Friday. This candle from Friday was more like a spinning top, which is sort of like an indecision candle. Price was mainly in consolidation for that day. But then on yesterday, we had bearish momentum, and we saw that price created a lower low and a lower close. We saw a close below the low from Friday. So then when we saw that, guess what happened? Let me just draw in. So we saw this break of this low right here, and price fell lower. And then guess what happened today? We had a price retraced, and we had a retest of this low, and price started falling lower from there. So then right now we're really looking for an opportunity to short this pair. We could have got in on this retest of this low, but sometimes you like, how can I put this? Sometimes you want to wait for more confirmation before you re-engage yourself in a trade, because right here we do see that there was some demand down here. We can tell that there were some buyers in this area, and they really wanted to keep price higher. That's the reason why we saw this candlestick close the way it closed. Even though it closed with a lower low and a lower close, there were still bulls that wanted to defend the lows down here and keep price higher. So then, oftentimes you want to play it safe. You don't want to re-engage yourself in a position yet until you know for certain what's going to happen. But based on what I'm seeing right now, like I said, guys, the wicks will tell you the story. So then what I'm going to do is look for an opportunity to trade right around these wicks right here. We have this wick right here, this wick right here, and this wick right here. We're going to look for an opportunity to short somewhere within this zone. If we can get a nice retracement within this zone right here, then we're going to look for an opportunity to sell this pair on bearish confirmation. So then let me just zoom out. Guys, I'm giving you guys the keys to the kingdom. Because really, this is what trading is all about, really. Just waiting for breakouts and waiting for pullbacks. Even though there's still a lot more to learn, to be honest with you. But with this information alone, you should do fine. Okay? So then we have this zone right here, right? The zone that we identified. What I would love to see is a retracement into this zone, or a retest of yesterday's low. Something like that. Like a pullback. And a retest of this zone in area as resistance before we look for a selling opportunity. And you can ride this lower all the way down to this next zone or level if you want to, which is around 111 institutional psychological level. So yeah, that would be around the 111 if you want to. If you want to extend your trade to the downside like that. So then right now we're in just waiting mode. We want to wait for pullbacks on both the Euro USD and the US dollar Japanese yen, but we're looking for opportunities to sell the US dollar. So then for the Euro USD, we're looking for opportunities to buy on a dip or a pullback in price. For US dollar Japanese yen, we're looking for an opportunity to sell this pair on a retracement or correction higher in price. Hello everyone. This is actually Marvin. I'm going to step in. I know my brother, he's more so focusing on the technical analysis and chart analysis aspect of these two currency pairs, but I just want to briefly introduce some of the fundamental backdrop behind what we see happening even with the US dollar weakness, because this could just simply be transitory or temporary ahead of various risk scenarios scheduled for the later portion of the week. And we know that the US dollar, even though it's softening now, that that could be limited ahead of tomorrow's big Wednesday, where we have a combination of big events happening. We have the ECB Monetary Policy Statement being released. We have the first day of the European Union Summit, where, of course, we'll receive more clarity about the Brexit deadline. And then we also will have, the release of the FOMC meeting minutes from the previous Fed meeting. So then we have a combination of things that are actually on the economic docket that may restrain the dollar at the moment. So then what we see happening with the US dollar weakness is primarily being supported by the strong demand in the commodity sector. We're seeing a lot of our US dollar denominated assets rallying on this dollar weakness, but it's also being supported by what we see happening with the surge in commodities. And so then there's not really risk appetite. The markets are pretty neutral at the moment. We're sort of seeing investors sort of sitting on the sideline and being like wait and see mode ahead of tomorrow's big meetings. But for the meantime, we want you guys to trade what you see. You see the dollar is currently weakening and softening at the moment. And, even though there's a plethora of factors surrounding that, but right now we want to look for opportunities to short the dollar. So then, yeah, but that's pretty much what I wanted to mention, because, we don't have a full hour to go over everything that's happening on a fundamental basis or intermarket basis. But just know that there's some of the geopolitical concerns, even though they're still on the table at the moment, some of the worries and some of the anxiety concerning the U.S.-China trade negotiations, concerning, various other geopolitical concerns are sort of waning, even though you see new ones coming to the surface, like the Libyan crisis, the civil war and unrest going on in Libya, which is putting pressure on certain, assets, and actually causing a level of support for oil due to excessive, oil supply, due to oil inventories possibly rising, but or falling. Well, no, well, yeah, well, yeah, it's falling, causing oil prices to rise. So then, yeah, that's briefly what's going on. I know, of course, there's rumors today that the Prime Minister Merkel was going to approve an extension for Article 50 with Brexit, but then those are just rumors. Prime Minister Merkel denied those rumors. So then, of course, the EU summit tomorrow is very important, and we may see the Euro USD still limited ahead of tomorrow's ECB Monetary Policy Statement, as well as the EU summit and the outcome of that. But for the meantime, trade what you see. That's what we always say. Don't trade what you think. Sometimes following the textbook could hinder you from actually executing the right thing. Because we don't know all the variables that actually motivate prices to move in a certain direction. So it's important just to, look at the technicals, which is really a visual illustration of what's happening fundamentally, and just trade these particular chart patterns and chart setups. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to add. I'm going to pass the mic back over to my brother Melvin, and he's going to finish off the webinar.
Yeah, and I guess to finish off, I guess I can give you guys just a little tip on what not to do. And oftentimes you see traders do this all the time. They have a bias. They know, okay, I should be selling US dollar, Japanese yen. Let me jump in now. If I don't jump in now, I'm going to miss out on this opportunity. And when they do it, they're already jumping in on a moving train, and then eventually that train reverses and they end up crashing. So you don't want to just jump in on sudden moves in price. What you want to happen is for price to come to you, not for you to chase price. Because if you was to jump in now, you'll be doing something that we call chasing price. And whenever you chase price, you're going to really cut your foot and stab yourself in the back. I mean, for real, guys. You always want to wait for price to get to key levels or key zones that would be optimal trade entry zones. So then in this case, we see the dollar sliding lower. I mean, the US dollar, Japanese yen sliding lower. Will we miss out on this opportunity? Probably. There's a likelihood that we could miss out on this particular setup that we've been planning for or waiting for. But then that's okay. Because if there's one setup that we miss, guess what? Tomorrow there may be another setup that we can take advantage of and use and exploit for gain. So then
you can't be manipulated by the markets. You know, just because you see the markets moving strongly doesn't mean that you need to make a decision as of now. You have to have poise, discipline. So then right now we're going to be disciplined. And even though price is falling kind of strongly right now, we're not going to take the bait. We're just going to wait for price to correct and retrace. And then from there decide on what we want to do after the retracement in price. But yeah, guys. So then that's it. I don't know if you wanted to say something about that before we close out. I just wanted to give you guys a little clue on what not to do. It's very important. Don't let these markets affect you and influence your decision making. Exercise mastery over your emotions and over your decision making abilities. Because I could look at this and say, man, you know, I'm leaving money on the table. You know, we already knew it's going down. Let's go down now. Let's sell now. But I'm okay. You know, I've been at this long enough to know that that could be the worst thing to do at times. So I'm going to keep my poise and not do anything. Now, if price hits this zone right here, this 111 zone, which was a key zone, you never know. We could see a potential buying opportunity for him. However, that buying opportunity could be in preparation just for another selling opportunity. So then just be on the lookout for that. But with that said, guys, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys got some value from today's Technical Tuesday session. I know this is for our free members. We just really want to help you guys become good traders. However, if you do want to take your trading to the next level, because you know, a lot of the stuff that we mentioned here is just basic stuff that most traders should know. If you really want to know some good trading stuff, some stuff that's unique to us and to our private community, you can join for $1. You know, if you want to do that, if you feel led to do it, if you want to contribute, if you want to help out what we're like, we really want to share as much information as we can. However, we do reserve a bit for our private community. But we want to continue having these Technical Tuesday sessions. But for those that do want to really, they want to make this a full-time career, then we recommend that you do join our private community. But I'm not going to spend too much time with the sales pitch because that is not what this is about. This is about helping you guys become better traders and looking at the Euro USD and US dollar Japanese yen pair. So then, are there any questions about anything before we move forward or before we close out for today? Okay, yeah, thanks Abraham for coming. We really appreciate you. Thanks Francisco. Thanks, we really appreciate you guys. But I guess there aren't any questions. So then with that said, we can close out for today. Thank you guys so much for coming. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your week of trading. Use some of these same price action concepts and principles on other currency pairs as well, and you should do fine. But that's it, guys. And we'll definitely meet again on next Tuesday. If you don't decide to join our our private community. But that's it, guys. Thank you, Tony, for coming. Thanks, Brandon, for coming. I know Brandon's one of our premium members. But that's it, guys. And we'll see you guys soon. Have a blessed day. All right, guys. Okay, good day. Goodbye.